Hello, welcome. It's another fresh review. I'm currently trying to read news from the invisible world. Yes, I have been eager and busy to come up with the coolest, newest releases because as a cool music nerd, of course, I know what's going on. As long as the real cool people in the know are so nice to make albums that have not been released yet available to me. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about and review an album by a band called The Fears and the Dead. And with a title like News from the Invisible World, they seem to invite us to maybe the spheres of ghosts and specters, or the world of bacteria and microbes, or is it rather about the invisible worlds we are living in, mainly those worlds on the internet and all those virtual bubbles that we spend our time in. The cover artwork leaves it open to interpretation, but I think this is a nice little bubble that we are presented with on this album. So it also looks a bit psychedelic, I think. So The Fears and the Dead, yes, a band that has been around since 2010, and a band I had never heard of until this album was brought to my attention. It's their fourth studio release, I believe, and this album was riddled with drawbacks, from injuries to viruses, lockdowns. I guess you get the picture. According to descriptions on the net, The Fears and the Dead are often described as math rock, prog rock, or even prog metal. And this album apparently is a bit of a departure or a new direction for the band, because it is the first album to feature vocals. All the former albums were instrumental. This new album has got 8 tracks with vocals, fully fledged out lyrics. So it seems to be a little bit more song-centered. And yes, I was curious to find out what this band was all about. So let's get into The Invisible World. And the album starts with The Start. Yes, that's the name of the track. It's one of those intro tracks that slowly build up to a massive crescendo, and thus sort of slowly draw the listeners into the album. The focus or the spotlight from the very start is on the vocals here, because the song opens very quietly with just a bit of piano and the vocals. I get a very strong sense of the band Elbow with this track. I don't know if this was the intention of The Fears and the Dead, because this is a reference I was definitely not expecting coming into this album. Then the drums slowly join and get louder and more massive as the song progresses, plus a background choir, mostly female singers, I think, that finally bursts into an epic climax, like Elbow, if they decided to play heavier rock. second cut of the album is called Shake the Jar. It has been chosen as a single as well to promote the album in advance, I guess. This one takes a different turn. It's straightforward, heavy rock. The guitars are tuned down and fuzzy, but with a pleasant vocal melody on top and some very interesting keyboard breaks. This one here is like Queens of the Stone Age meet latter-day Marillion, but throughout the whole album also there are again and again little passages and bits that are apparently indie rock or post-Britpop inspired. Shake the Jar is a fantastic rocker. There's great bass playing, really a thumping bass throughout the track. A fantastic guitar riff that the song is built on, and overall excellent dynamics from all the players in the band. I certainly wasn't expecting this based on some of the descriptions I had found about the band. I was more expecting some kind of neo-prog sound with a bit of metal influences thrown in. And at this point in the album, my attention was certainly caught. I'm not a big neo-prog guy, you know. So yeah, this is a delightfully punchy track.
And you try to keep your head up high, keeping pace and up to glorify. I'm done with staring at the sun, blinded by the hay.
The following golden thread then comes with a true metal riff. It's super heavy, but then goes into, at least for a little while, into a rather trippy and to my ears quite trip-hoppy verse, at least based on the drum pattern that is used and the way the drums are mixed. And then it returns to heavy rock. It's a song that morphs into various styles throughout, but not in the sense of overblown progressive rock. There's a certain darkness to it as the bass player Kevin Feasey sings about prices to pay and cutting a golden thread.
What's the price you pay? You'll never know.
After this one, Photogenic Love, the fourth track, comes as a more laid-back song with a steady, quite modern pop groove. It's very keyboard-focused, but then quite anthemic guitars dominate the chorus. With this song, again, I was reminded of the band Elbow, or maybe also the Manic Street Preachers, and there's also a little bit of the Flaming Lips in this quite interesting mixture here. The lyrics for me are a bit cryptic. Propaganda is mentioned, and maybe it's about social media. Song number 5, Wonderful, is a bit heavier again. It comes with a pounding beat over which an unusual, slightly jarring chord progression is laid, which keeps the song edgy and interesting. Again, there seems to be more of an indie rock bass to the sound. And we also get some saxophone. There's something quite frantic or claustrophobic about this song. This is followed by a track called Non-Player, which curbs the pressure and almost enters Radiohead territory with delicate guitar arpeggios, or is it arpeggi, and lots of reverb on the vocals. There is a droning, heavier middle part, including quite menacing saxophone that then has a fantastic jazzy solo spot at the end of the song. This one displays very tasty songwriting indeed. It's a grower track. When I heard it the third or fourth time, it really clicked, and to me, this is the hidden gem of the album.
Am I loud? Am I clear? Am I trusted? Am I blessed? Talking down to myself. So it goes.
Next up is What a Time to Be Alive. This returns to a more alternative rock metal sound, but paired with quite airy keyboard passages. This track is indeed mostly instrumental, except for the vocoder lines that sing What a Time to Be Alive. Is it a good or a bad time? That's left open on purpose, I guess. This track is proggy in a modern sense, and maybe a little bit more in the vein of what the band did on their older albums. And speaking of things done in the past, the final track is called Nostalgia Now. The album ends on a more solemn note here. It's a piano, indie pop, or art rock ballad, again like a more bulky version of Elbow, if it wasn't for those heavy stoner rock guitars that appear occasionally on this track. It's a fitting, sustained ending to this very creative and interesting album. The piano playing becomes more and more experimental at the end of the track. I think David Bowie would have been happy with this. The vocals, in turn, resemble a bit of the melancholia of Steve Hogarth from Marillion. Is nostalgia a dangerous trap, maybe? News from the Invisible World is an intriguing album that uses unusual combinations of well-known influences. Of course, dropping various names of other bands is not always a very flattering approach when it comes to reviewing a new band. But then, as a reviewer, what do you do if you hear something that is completely new to you? Of course, you try to find something you know and then compare the new music that you hear in order to find out where you can hear similarities or in which way this music is very different from the music that you know. So, whatever the influences the Fears and the Dead had in mind when recording this album, I think they are onto something here. And this more song-focused approach, combined with a very intriguing way of songwriting and arranging, is something to keep an ear on, and something that I hope the band will pursue and develop further with the next albums. For the listeners, this album keeps surprising you with its twists and turns and its combinations of different styles, from heavy guitars to ambient keyboards, proggy elements, as well as a certain pop sensibility here and there, and some really experimental stuff. Coming basically absolutely blind to this album, this is an easy 7.5 out of 10 for me. Fans of the Fears and the Dead may have to come to terms that this new version of the band is now working with clearly structured songs and vocals. For me, as somebody who has not heard the older instrumental works by the Fears and the Dead, I can only say this is an extremely strong not only songwriting team, but also a band that has great dynamics, as mentioned, and each member here has its little showcase without going completely over the top. So this is not an album where you get dozens of solos and super tricky instrumental passages, but still, this is not simple rock music. So, more than a very pleasant surprise, The Fierce and the Dead, News from the Invisible World, super fresh, coming out at the end of July, I think. Keep looking out for the more invisible bands around you and stay tuned for more Murdock Music Minutes. Bye.